Good afternoon. We welcome you to the last concert of our 2019 Culpeper Concert Series. It's been a great joy to be a part of that this year, and thank you for coming to our final one. We do want to welcome the folks who are joining us right now at the J.T. Edwards Chapel at the Culpeper. Glad that you all can watch the concert through the live stream and are always excited to share what we're doing here over there as well. Let me share a few things with you before the concert gets going. During the concert, if you need to go out, go that way, and there's restrooms to my left if you need to make use of that. The concert series has been made possible through a lot of generous donors. We're grateful for that. It makes it free for our community. But if you'd like to be a donor, if you'd like to help us get ready for the 2020 Culpeper Concert Series, there's offering plates in the back on your way out. You can use one of the envelopes in the pews and just write concert series on it, and we'll be sure to use that to make another great concert series. We're very fortunate to have Randy Sheets on our church staff, and he's the one who started this concert series, and his network of friends and musicians that he can pull in for the concert series has been amazing. If you look on the back of your bulletin, you see we started back in March with the Barclay Brass, and we've just had an amazing run this year of community groups as well as some really national talent that has been able to come and be here at Culpeper Baptist, and we are thrilled to be a part of that. You can read all about Randy Sheets and Chuck Seipp in your program. They are amazing musicians who have done incredible things in the music world. We are spoiled here at Culpeper Baptist because we get to hear Chuck several times a year. We get to hear Randy every Sunday play the organ and the piano, and we're just thrilled that they can kind of be the final part of our 2019 concert series. Just a little teaser. We do something with our community on Tuesday nights called Pact, and we bring people from all over our community, and they learn English as a second language. They learn Spanish. We tutor children, and we have just a great time, and our whole building is lit up on Tuesday night, which is really exciting. And on a Tuesday night in December, Chuck and Randy will do a little 40-minute Christmas concert for you. So pay attention to our website, to our Facebook page, to our bulletin. We'll make sure you know that. But you'll want to drift back out here for just a special kind of unplugged version, if you will, of Chuck and Randy doing a little Christmas concert on a Tuesday night as part of our Pact festivities in December. So we're glad you're here. We're thrilled that Randy and Chuck are going to lead us, and we welcome them now to the stage.
Now we got things figured out. Sorry about that, folks. Randy and I are still really happy to be here today. It's always a pleasure being here at Culpeper Baptist. We have so many friends here, and it's so much more meaningful for us to perform for folks that we know so well. So thank you for coming out on a beautiful afternoon and enjoying some fun music. We think we have a really enjoyable concert for you with our King of Instruments and Instruments of Kings program, and we've added some videos, which one is the first we've done anywhere. So we really think that you're going to enjoy some of the videos that we have for this afternoon. We opened up with Handel's Rejoicing from his Fireworks music, and we move on to Modest Mussorgsky and his Pictures at an Exhibition. It's a glorious work. It was originally written for piano in honor of his dear friend, Victor Hartmann. Victor Hartmann was an incredible painter and sketch an artist, and after his death, they had an exhibition of all of his works, 400 and some works on display. And it was Mussorgsky's walk through that exhibition that gave him the idea to write a piece in honor of his friend Victor Hartmann. In 1922, this piano suite was arranged by Ravel, and it has become one of the most loved orchestral pieces by not only audiences but musicians as well. Excerpts from Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition. Thank you. That concludes the program. Oh, we always love playing that piece. But we have a lot more good ones to come, I believe. So now we move on to Jean Riviere. He was the head of the composition department at the Paris Conservatory, and he was quite the composer. He could write anything, really, incredibly talented composer. He was particularly noted for writing beautiful songs, and that's exactly what we have here today. We absolutely love playing this aria, and we are glad we stumbled onto this piece. So, Jean Riviere's Aria.
The next piece that we are going to play is based on a hymn that was published in 1887, and it's become something of a gospel classic, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Anthony Showalter was a Presbyterian minister, and I've been meaning to ask Mike Showalter, who could not be here today, if there was any relation, maybe a great-great-grandparent. But he was a Presbyterian minister who, in one day, received 2 letters from former students. And in each of those letters, they were announcing that their wives had died. And this was unexpected. In his letters of consolation, in 1887, letter writing was the way to communicate. So he sat down to write a letter, and he was reading the Bible and was inspired by Deuteronomy 33:27, which says, "The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms." And because of this event, it created, a sense of inspiration in him, and he wrote this hymn tune. It's been used in all kinds of movies and TV, for background music for TV. It's really interesting how it's been used. I was really affected when I saw in 2010 the remake of True Grit. And this hymn, I don't know if any of you remember that, but it was used throughout that entire movie with just a very simple piano playing. Da, 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 dum, dum, dum. Very, very quiet and very, very slow, very lyric. And that's generally about the way we would treat this hymn. This composer, however, really had a very interesting take on the hymn because he's created it into a very unique rhythmic setting. And we think it's quite a lot of fun to play. So I think you'll recognize the tune here and there throughout, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. The next piece that I will play is also a piano piece. It's an intermezzo of Johannes Brahms. It was written very late in his life, near the end of his life. And like all of Brahms' music, it's extremely dense and rich in content and incredibly deep in meaning. It's a kind of a hard nut to crack, Brahms. But you can't talk about Brahms without talking about Robert and Clara Schumann, the very great composer Robert Schumann and his wife Clara, who was equally wonderful, but at that time it was a little bit harder for a woman to make her name. But she had the same talent, really, in many ways, as a similar talent to Robert. Anyway, when Brahms was about 20, he was introduced to the Schumanns, and Clara was about 37 or so, and Robert was already about 9 years her senior. So they were sort of the elder statesmen, and they were introduced to the young Brahms, only 20, and his work was already of such depth and stature that Schumann actually published in a magazine, a music magazine at the time, that he predicted that Brahms would be the heir to Schubert and Beethoven. So that was quite a mantle for Brahms to live under. But he only about 4 months after they met, Robert, who had severe mental illness, tried to commit suicide and was institutionalized. And young Robert actually came. Clara was not allowed to be with him at the asylum. And young Brahms came and lived with them, Clara and all their children, and was the go-between between his wife and Schumann. And of course, it was not a good ending. He died about a little over 2 years later. And there's a lot of musicologists that have speculated on their relationship. They never married. I'm talking about Brahms and the elder Clara Schumann. They were extremely fond of each other. They were probably the closest friends in their entire world. And it was just one of those complicated relationships. Brahms had so much respect for her and for Robert that even though I think he probably deeply loved her, they never married. So, but they wrote lots of letters, and it's really interesting to read some of the correspondence. But most musicologists, this was dedicated to Clara, and most musicologists believe that it's a love letter in many ways in music. It's an extremely, it's just full of such love and reminiscence and nostalgia and longing, and it's just, anyway, it begins with a really transcendently beautiful melody, lyric melody. There's a second section that's in F sharp minor, becomes more turbulent. That moves later into a very, very simple but extremely reverential chorale, really just a simple hymn. And then the lyric return comes back with just profound beauty. And I love this statement that I came across recently by a musicologist because it really sort of sums up Brahms' music. He said, quote, "Brahms' music is chaos of emotion subdued by a relentless self of form and discipline." Intermezzo, Opus 118, number 2.
So you see why I like to play with this gentleman. I tell you, every time we get together to rehearse, I always learn something from him. So it's just an incredible honor and pleasure to play with Randy Sheets. So thank you, Randy. We move on now to Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It's probably the most recognizable piece around the world. Certainly is a most popular organ composition, but it's also been arranged for solo instruments, for chamber groups, for concert band, for the symphony orchestra. So a myriad of groups and ensembles have been able to play this great music by this great composer. The style of this music really lends itself well to the silent movie screen. Possibly the best kinds of silent movies would be maybe this time of year, this week, as a matter of fact. And it also lent itself well to the modern TV screen as well. And you might recognize this piece in Walt Disney's Fantasia. Well, we thought it was a really wonderful piece to figure out how to arrange for trumpet and organ. And we also thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to put some video to go along with this? And so we did. And we have a lot of fun with this. And we know you're going to have a good time with this. So watch and listen to this great, wonderful music by Johann Sebastian Bach, the master. And this is truly a masterful piece. Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor.
June the 6th of this year, as many of you remember, I'm sure, was the 75th anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, France. It is, I believe, to this day still the largest coordinated military, the longest planned, and the most coordination went into planning this invasion of any event in military history. And of course, it included naval, it included air, it included land. There were over 160,000 Allied troops involved in this operation, and about half of them were American. There were 5 assault beaches over a 50-mile stretch. It was a huge undertaking. Over 10,000 Allied troops died that day, and over 10,000 German troops also died that day. But in the end, it really overwhelmed the German forces, and it became the turning point in the war. It's very sad, though, that this war, if you start with World War I and tally all the deaths in every war up until the present day, it still doesn't come close to the number of people that were killed in World War II. So it came at a tremendous cost of lives. And we thought, with our connections with the military, that it would be wonderful this year to honor, to recognize and to honor D-Day. And Douglas Richard is a military arranger who put this together for us, and so we're very proud to share with you our D-Day tribute. Have you heard of Bohemian Rhapsody? Well, we don't need to play it then. No, we're excited about this. Of course, I didn't remember it that well. The Queen was the band Queen, the British rock band Queen, was established in '71, and in 1975 their album came out, A Night at the Opera, and that's the album that really put them on the charts. And Bohemian Rhapsody was part of that album from 1975. And they were, I think, about 3 months the number one, held the number one position on the charts in the UK for that album in 1975. And it's considered, I think, one of the greatest rock albums of all time. And certainly Freddie Mercury is considered the greatest, if not one of the greatest rock voices of all time. And we, believe it or not, had this idea of doing this arrangement before we even knew there was a movie coming out last year. And it was just kind of a nice coincidence. But we talked with our arranger, and he sent us a score one day, the first proof. And I brought it home, and, at the top of the page said Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury, Seipp Sheets Duo. And I showed it to my then 17-year-old daughter last year, one day when I got home from work, and I said, Stephanie, take a look at this. And she saw the title page, and her eyes just got huge, and she said, Dad, are you really going to play that? And she knew all about it. She knew more about it than I did. As a matter of fact, she knows all the words. But anyway, it has been a fun thing for us to attempt to do, and it has so many beautiful sections. It opens with a reflective introduction, and then goes into a ballad, which is just one of the really beautiful melodies of all time, really. And then it goes into the operatic section, and then it moves into kind of a rock section, and then eventually in the end comes back to that beautiful contemplative feeling of the introduction. So we hope you enjoy our version of Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, not yet. I just wanted to say you can see what's going on here behind. I didn't mean for it to show up at this point, but I figured it does need some explanation. We've been doing some videos where we very intricately have to time our music to the action on the screen, which is challenging, and we have more challenges ahead of this. But this particular program I found, and what's cool about it is it reacts to what we're playing. So it's this actually detects my pitch and rhythm, so pitch and rhythm. So that's kind of neat. So whatever we play, it's going to detect that. And the microphone is right here, so it's really going to pick me up really well. But there's several scenes during this Bohemian Rhapsody, so I have different scenes of different things going on to kind of fit each section of the music. So it's pretty high-tech stuff, and that's the way the Seipp sheets roll. I don't think anybody else that I'm aware of does anything like this, and we really enjoy trying to bring the visual aspect to our concerts. So anyway, our version of Bohemian Rhapsody.
I'd like to just take a moment to say a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank Chuck. As you can tell already, he's an amazing musician. And on top of that, in the last year, he's become an audio-video technology nut and a wizard. I can barely turn on my computer. So none of this would happen without Chuck. He knows not to ask me to do too much because I'm rather limited. But thanks, Chuck. It's a lot of fun, and on top of all of the musical fun that we have. I'd like to thank Dan Carlton for all of his support here. We've had about, 2 3/4 years or something of a lot of fun here at Culpeper, and he's always been so supportive. And Joyce Beals, we could not do this concert series without Joyce. Where are you, Joyce? Are you here? Is Joyce here? Well, anyway, she's amazing. She's our almost full-time volunteer here, and she does so much for us in terms of getting the word out and radio and paper and working on the programs. And I know she dreads seeing my phone ring when I say I found another typo, but she's so great. Jimmy Jones and Tony Buxton, and I don't know if Tim's here today, but Tim Setzer has been such a big help to us. They're really the true audio and video experts. And Chuck has picked their brain a few times too, so thank you, men, for all you do for us and for Culpeper Baptist. And I think he might have mentioned the patrons on the back of your program today. We do thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. And the concert series for 2020 is well underway. We announce it always in January. So if you are excited about these concerts and would like to help us continue them and grow them, please make a contribution to us, and we'd love to acknowledge you in all the programs. And I guess the last thank you is just for you here today. After that torrential rain this morning, it turned into be absolutely gorgeous today, and it would have been a good day to be outside, and we're glad that you're not. So thank you for supporting the arts and for supporting us.
Just to echo what Randy said, you guys have been an amazing audience this afternoon, and for musicians to play for great audiences, I mean, we love that. We really hate rehearsing. We just wish we could perform because that's just so much fun. And it was really wonderful to be with you this afternoon. And this wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the concert series. So musicians obviously need a place to perform, and Culpeper Baptist has done wonderful things to support amazing folks to come in and perform for the community. So thank you so much. Speaking of community, are you aware of the World Series that's going on right now? Okay, good. Well, Randy and I are huge fans, and we just, they've had a little bit of bad luck the last couple games, but they play tonight. We hope, it's hopeful that they're going to come through tonight and end up victorious. But it's been a lot of excitement for Washington. But there's something that's really unique about the Washington Nationals that no other team has, and I think it's really been kind of really cool to see. And well, anyway, they do this thing. Maybe. Oh, I think Randy's got it. Yeah, we're going to be watching tonight. We're really thrilled that the game wasn't at 4 o'clock today. So, so we're on to the final piece, A Trip to the Moon. This was the first science fiction silent movie that was a huge success back in 1902 by the French filmmaker Georges Méliès. And not only was he an incredible film producer back at that time, but he was also an actor. So he is the main actor in this silent movie, A Trip to the Moon. So just a little bit about the movie. The professor gets this idea to go to the moon. And so he recruits some friends to go to the moon, and they are shot in a rather large cannon and make it to the moon, and they're captured by, of course, moon men, and they somehow escape and fall back to Earth and land in the ocean, just like NASA did it. And it's really quite fun. This kind of movies, silent movies, often would be accompanied by an organ playing, usually improvising to the actions that's happening. So every performance could be different. We chose a different approach, and one of our very good friends from the Army Band, composer and arranger Paul Murtha, arranged specific music for each scene throughout the film. And it is a hoot. There are so many melodies that fly by that you're really going to chuckle. And it's so creative what he did. And I think it really takes the film to a whole nother level. There's probably a lot of tunes that you may not know, but the style of the music fits right in. But I bet a lot of you will know almost every tune throughout this piece. So we hope you enjoy our version of A Trip to the Moon. This is our very first performance of this. So we're excited to do it for you today. Thank you once again. We look forward to speaking with you after this concert.